next piece. I think the masculine feminine energy, which is a hot topic right now, no matter pretty much hot topic good, hot topic bad. There's a lot of misconceptions about it, but you and I have talked about this quite often. There's a lot of personal connection to masculine feminine. There's a lot of professional masculine feminine connection as well. And I think if you just your ears just went, oh God, they're going to go there, bear with us here for 1 second. We're not going to get weird on you. For my body of work, it's on our YouTube channel. For Dennis's body of work, it's also there. His beautiful girlfriend Melanie is on those videos as well. So if you think that Dennis doesn't know what he's talking about, maybe Melanie does. But this is a really interesting topic when it comes to energy, because here's the reality. Whether you take energy work aside or not, our workforce is full of men and women. Men and women can both be masculine and feminine in the energy space. So it's everywhere, whether this is something that you want to invest in or not. The reality is we work in a co-ed work environment. Yep. We also have co-ed personal lives. So this piece about energy is not necessarily something you can turn a blind eye to. You also have an opportunity to embrace it, especially if success at an exponential level is something that you desire. So what do you think, if somebody's just breaking into this topic, what is something that you think you need to know in this moment about masculine, feminine, if you had to give like one piece of advice, Dennis?
Well, you may be a masculine man, you still have a feminine essence. It's just the minority, and vice versa. And I will never say that a less masculine man is wrong if he's being true to his nature. And it's something I think sadly, masculinity is often, okay, suck it up. And this is, there's this old school mindset. And quite honestly, sometimes the most masculine thing you can do is be loving and kind and be open-hearted and empathetic to your loved ones.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably one of the snips we should put out on this series. Way to go, Dennis. Way to knock it out of the park. Yeah, I think in this study that we have done at Oxygen in my own personal work, the idea of polarity in the masculine, feminine work. And that's a hard lesson. I love how you have mentioned multiple times, my younger self probably would have been well darn deserved to know this, but I was too dang stubborn to know or acknowledge that this was a thing. Potentially could have saved a shit ton of heartache, made me a lot more money, shortened some learning curves, but it's all in the process. And when the other person, whomever it be, is in one mode, I am best served to be in the other. Whether that's with someone I am coaching, with my boyfriend, with my children. By the way, I have a daughter and a son. Doing this with you now, polarity is how that kind of dance works. Somebody's going to be in their masculine and somebody's going to be in their feminine. And until you can embrace that process, I think it's more of an uphill battle, or it's a longer battle.
There's headbutting. Two people can't lead a tango. But when one person leads and the other follows, it's beautiful to watch. Yeah. And I think you nailed it with the polarity. You have to, depending on the situation, sometimes it's the other person's taking the lead. You need to respond. We don't react. But again, younger me, I look back and and being a former New Yorker didn't help,
Ouch.
But
Shots
the reality.
Fired. Jeez, Dennis.
Well, no, I grew up in the city, Staten Island, New York, and for a quote unquote New Yorker who was then in the Army, I was one of those nice guys in my first marriage, and I was afraid of conflict. But again, because I didn't approach it the right way, because I don't want to upset her, instead of embracing what I believed in at times, and sitting down and having that difficult conversation. I was more avoidant back then. Where now Melanie will go, I got something I want to talk about. Let me know when you are in the right headspace. And that's code for, hey, it's a little deeper conversation. And I love it because there's times I'm like, yeah, a little bit later. And most of the time I'm like, let's go. Because I'm like, I'm comfortable with where we're at. And I don't get hung up on whose role is to lead the conversation or what have you. And I think we have to not listen to, I'll just say, the lies of society. Being feminine is a beautiful thing in a woman. It is not a sign of weakness. And you mentioned it earlier. It is a beautiful dance, the masculine and the feminine, when they're working in concert. It is beautiful. That's the way we are supposed to be, and one responds to the other. So
Yeah, I think that when we work with some of our executive clients who are to a place where this is, like I mentioned, they've had their mistakes. They've figured out that, yeah, they got what they wanted to a certain extent in the past, but they're ready for a different way going forward. And what we're referring to today, it's a fear of what they could potentially have again if they're willing to try. We are okay with this polarity concept when it comes to selling a big ticket item, right? The emotional state of a customer if we remain intellectual, or we're okay with the polarity concept of employee versus employer. But when we take polarity and put a different context to it, then we get weird. We're actually not. We're actually very seasoned at this. So if we are willing to step outside of our box and kind of get a little bit uncomfortable and put that label on, are you willing to take the polarity concept and lay it on maybe understanding someone differently, or maybe getting something in an easier fashion? And I think that for high driver people who are listening to this series thinking, am I willing to put words on, I want the next bigger thing?
What's interesting, you mentioned the high driver people. Almost every man that I work with, they are incredibly successful in all aspects of their life until they walk through that front door. And they were never taught how to be a great husband. And they lose the polarity. They are leaders in every aspect. They walk through the door, and next thing you know, it's like their world is bizarro world. And again, it's a skill to be learned. And it is not about controlling somebody. It's about appreciating the beauty of the feminine and sometimes the chaos, which is part of the beauty. The feminine, it flows, and the masculine's not the same. And, that's one of the things. Once we can learn this and the dance of the masculine and the feminine, our lives improve exponentially. And every guy I've worked with, all of their relationships at home and at work improve because they connect better with their people and they allow them to understand they actually care about them instead of being that standoffish boss. Now you recognize something's off with an employee and you're approachable. When you go to talk to them, hey, what's going on? They'll open up to you because they've seen the softer side.
Yeah, I think that there's not a lot of people out there on, the Google space, in the YouTube space. You and I can be one of the few, Dennis, that help people understand that going out and physically exerting your body so that you can feel somewhere in your space. Earlier today when we were talking, whether it's your back or your legs or just being exhausted or whatnot, being actually able to feel something. And then taking that feeling and being aware enough to understand, hey, I have something to contribute, and it's to something bigger than me right now. It's not the hard work that got me here that was trips and falls and what I had to give up. It's what I can have, and I'm powerful enough to get it.